Hello. Oh, well, the ad just started. Great timing. That's okay, though. Oh, hang on. Model configure, please. Okay. Here we go. And... Okay. Let's get back to it. Continue. '80, 1982. Is that a year before Keiichi comes, maybe? The fourth year of the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa, also known as Oyashiro-sama's curse. 1 year prior to Keiichi Maebara's transfer. I'm so good. I didn't hear a wake-up chime. I'm not in school anymore. My brain is half asleep, but I'm aware of that. Waking up as the same time as the chime would go off at school doesn't feel good. I can't go back to sleep after this. Still, I'm not going to live a torturous school life anymore. I can make today either happy or boring. It's up to me. Yay, that's really positive. I feel like I'm alive for the first time in a while. I didn't have any other clothes, so I was still wearing the school track uniform. It's supposed to have been designed by some famous Italian person, but it just looks plain to me. It really doesn't feel great to still be in clothes from that school. I want to enjoy my freedom as soon as possible. I especially don't want to walk around outside wearing it. I should have Kasai bring me some new clothes later. And I should think of redecorating this room. After all, this is going to be my castle from now on. Wow, getting fancy, I see. This is a room in a gorgeous apartment building in the suburbs of Okinomiya. The property is one a realtor and my dad's conglomerate obtained after foreclosure due to some sort of dispute. Most of the residents moved out during that. So while there are plenty of rooms, it's a lonely complex that feels devoid of people. Plus, with the exception of the manager and a scant one or two others, all the residents are shady-looking people connected to my dad. It probably won't be much longer before the virtuous residents are driven out. The apartment I'm living in used to be the room they'd use for viewings, so it looks like a room in a business hotel. It's fully furnished, but lacking in daily necessities. I'll buy those things over time, though. It's better that way anyway. It'll make it feel more like my own room. I nodded to myself. It might have looked stupid, but it helped psych me up. At the school, there was a TV only in the common room, and we weren't allowed to watch any cable channels. I zapped through all those channels as a form of emancipation. It was early in the morning, so nothing interesting was on. But I enjoyed it anyway. Commercials are fun to watch. True. Some of them anyway. Kasai stopped by with lunch right when I was started to feel hungry. Good morning, Shion-san. Did you sleep well last night? Sleeping on the couch was a bit too uncomfortable. As a Japanese person, I want to sleep in a futon on the floor. This pickled radish is so good. That's good to hear. Please let me know what you need later on. I'll try to get as much as I can. I don't remember what voice I gave Kasai. Oh well. Thanks. Oh, but you don't need to worry so much about me. I chose this life for myself anyway. And your wallet wouldn't last if I started extorting you, right? I have to be serious about my plan. I can't let myself take advantage of Kasai's wallet forever. I think I'm going to start a part-time job. I have to earn my own living. This is the life I chose, so naturally I have to take care of it myself. That's reassuring to hear. But are you sure? If you go outside, eventually someone in the family will discover you. I gave that a little thought, which is why I'll need Mion's help. Kasai, would you mind calling the main house for me? When Mion answers, pass me the receiver. Oh well, whatever you say. What could be your plan? Kasai dialed the number. It's funny to me that we're calling the main house, even if that's the place I want to avoid the most at the moment. Hello? Good morning. Is this Mion-san? It's been a while. This is Kasai. Yes. Good morning. Could you hold for a moment? I'm letting someone else on the phone. I take the headset. Hello? Can you tell who this is? That voice! But that can't be true! Shion's still supposed to be confined to St. Lucia's! You can't be her! Yeah, they forbid outside calls at the academy. But you're talking to me right now. Even my dim-witted older sister should understand what that means. Did you sneak out of the school? How? That's not important. I really missed you, sis. Gah. Shion! That was as far as I could take it. And Mion had her limit, too. We both burst into laughter, unable to keep up our act. It's been a while since we laughed out loud with each other like this. I didn't think they were on good terms. Interesting. It's been forever, Shion. Seriously, what's happened with you? There's not much else to it. I haven't lied or anything. Wait, then you really ran away? Oh, great job. The security wasn't tight enough to keep me locked up in there. Maybe the school should be grateful you escaped quietly. If you were serious, it'd be easy for you to blow up the whole building to make your escape. Well, I couldn't have done that, but I might have set it on fire. Kasai smiled at us in amazement, his face a blend of amusement and exasperation. Just casually gonna burn a whole school? Okay, Shion. Is it okay to talk to you now? It's alright. Granny's out for a lesson. She's coming home later in the evening. That's good. We should get together and talk soon. Just over the phone for today, though. Okay. Did anybody report my escape to our grandmother? Nope. We've heard nothing. I pass along all the calls and guests for the main family now, so no news reaches Granny without going through me. I'm sure she doesn't know. Wow, that's awesome. You really sound like the next leader of the Sonozaki family. You know I don't like that. You should have taken my place. You're the one with the demon, aren't you? Well, keep giving it your all. I'll be rooting for you from the shadows. Anyway, that's not important right now. You sound so indifferent. Well, that's okay, I guess. If you hear anything about me, give Kasai a call, okay? I'd like to give you my number here, but I'll keep it a secret for the time being. Sorry. All right. If Granny hears you fled the school, there'll be all kinds of trouble. I'll be on the lookout for now, and I'll let Kasai-san know if something happens. Thanks. I also have a favor to ask. I figured you would. Oh, money's out of the question, okay? I never thought I could pester you for money. I just want to ask you for a little help with my part-time job. I see. So that's it then. What exactly do you need? We can communicate fast in a situation like this. We don't have to get into details because we know what's on each other's minds. Uncle Yoshiro's on my side, isn't he? I'm going to try and see if I can't get a part-time job at one of the businesses he owns. Then I'll call you when I know my shift. So I just have to disappear while you're working, right? That's a little taxing. What are you saying, sis? Are you turning down your only sister's request? Seriously? All right, I'll do it. I wouldn't want to see how you'd retaliate if I turned you down. Thanks. I'll buy you a cake from Schlanke Bertha's. I'll throw in tons of pretty tarts, too. Shion? Schlanke Bertha closed last fall. Huh? Is that so? Yeah, the owner had a stroke. He reopened the store once, but he got sick again, so he had to shut it down. I see. That's a shame. I won't be able to eat their Mont Blanc cakes to my heart's content anymore. I was disappointed that my favorite cake shop had closed down, but more so that the town had changed without my knowing while I was gone. I mean, what did she expect? It was kind of regrettable. Are there any other changes I don't know about? Yeah, there are some. I'll tell you when we meet up next time. Thanks. I'll tell you about my school life. Let's set a date. I'll call you. All right. I'll see you then. Mion? What is it? How are you? I'm fine. I'm glad to hear that. I'm hanging up now. Okay. See you. It's really been a while since I last talked to her. I put down the phone and heaved a sigh as Kasai brought in some tea. So, how'd it go? Do you remember Uncle Yoshiro, who was in favor of me staying? I'll talk to him about my escape, and ask him if he can hire me to work at one of his stores. Are you sure? Some other relative might find out. That's why I asked Sis a favor. I'll contact her when my shift is set, and she'll disappear while I'm working. Do you get the picture? Kasai looked puzzled. It's not really that difficult to grasp. It's simple. If somebody finds me at work, I'll tell them that I'm Mion. Do you get it now? Normal people wouldn't buy this kind of plan. But Kasai knows too well how easy it is for my sis and me to trade places. That's audacious. Or shrewd, I should say. I'm impressed. Is that a compliment, Kasai? Kasai looked amazed. If things go south, it'll affect him too. Considering the rules of my dad's profession, he won't be able to get away with just a mere apology. That's why he doesn't want me to do anything too risky. I think I'll have to make it up to him, since he helped me escape even knowing that risk. Oh wait, is my game audio not on? Oops. There we go. My bad. Alright, no problem. If I find somebody talking bad about you, I'll beat 'em up. Thank you so much. I knew I could rely on you, Uncle Yoshiro. Uncle Yoshiro pounded his chest with his fist after offering me his assurance. He seemed glad that I turned to him first. I'd be happy to help, since I'm so impressed that you're trying to support yourself. If you were here for money, I'd turn you into your grandmother right away. What? You're scaring me, Uncle. I knew he was reliable. He understood my situation straight away and promised to help. Manager, here's the shift chart. I'll put it here. One of the store clerks brought out a work schedule. There are many things I'm unfamiliar with written on it. So, how much can you work? That depends on our respective schedules. I hope I can get in when I want to. Hey, that sounds a little irresponsible. But I know you're in a difficult situation. I'm depending on Mion for my work. Our schedules have to match. Of course, Uncle Yoshiro understood that. But I also knew he couldn't afford a selfish part-timer who only works when she wants to. In the end, he decided to hire me as an office helper, not an official worker. As a temp, I wouldn't have a work schedule. My uncle also decided to pay me out of his own pocket. It's fine as long as I can make enough to support myself. Sure. I expect to get what I'm paying for, okay? And don't call me uncle in the office either. All right, manager. Thanks for hiring me. Good, you get it. Once all the business talk was over, my uncle hounded me with all kinds of questions. He asked me things like, what was it like in a prestigious girls' boarding school? And so on. Apparently, There were all kinds of rumors going around about the St. Lucia Academy I was confined to, and everyone was curious about it. I added a few embellishments of my own as I explained how unordinary life at the school was. My uncle looked extremely delighted to hear all the little details about life in a secret garden for girls. Horny bastard. Dang, okay. Once my uncle was satisfied, it was my turn to ask all kinds of questions. I wanted to know if anything peculiar had happened while I was gone. I won't be able to act like Mion unless I can fill in the gap of information left in the past 2 years. There haven't been many big changes. It's been quiet since the end of the dam conflict. I went to the academy only a bit after they froze the project. There was still a bit of tension then. Even after they shut down construction, things were still tense because the project wasn't entirely cancelled. Saint Cisco, hi, welcome! How are you doing? But the Onigafuchi Guardians disbanded about a year later. There was a big ceremony held at the shrine. That's when the dam conflict officially ended. That's right after I was imprisoned. Is everybody slacking now that the conflict is over? Ha ha ha! I guess you all had fun playing at war back then during the dam protest, didn't you? All good chilling at work? I'm glad to hear that. I hope work isn't too bad. Try to imagine how much suffering the adults went through every time they had to come pick up their kids from the police station. Well, I can't deny that. It was like a festival for us. Uncle Yoshiro seemed exasperated at how differently kids and adults treated the conflict. Oh yeah, there was that dismemberment murder, wasn't there? The one where that jerk of a construction manager got split into pieces? They still haven't caught the culprit behind that, have they? Did they finally catch him? Come to think of it, I don't think they've caught him yet, no. It happened on the night of the Watanagashi, didn't it? I remember everyone making a fuss about it being Oyashiro-sama's curse. That was pretty scary for us kids. Yeah, Oyashiro-sama's curse. That happened the year after, too. That's right. That was scary too, wasn't it? Who was it again? That guy who supported the dam died in an accident, right? Hojo, wasn't it? And it happened on the day of Watanagashi once again. Everyone went crazy, saying it had to be a curse. That was horrifying. Definitely. Ooh. The construction manager that everyone hated was killed and dismembered on the night of the Watanagashi festival. That incident, on its own, was more than intense enough for us kids. Worse, part of his body was never found, which made it almost a ghost story amongst us. We seriously believed that the severed right arm was roaming in search of the body it belonged to. Oh yeah, they only found, like, the other parts. They never found that right arm. It didn't take long for the rumor of Oyashiro-sama's curse to become a topic of discussion amongst occult researchers and the like, considering the circumstantial factors. Even so, the rumor faded away after about a year. After the dam project was officially frozen, we held Watanagashi purely as a festival. But the curse struck again. The victim was a pro-dam activist who lived in Hinamizawa, by the name of Hojo. He and his wife were on a trip when they fell from a cliff to their deaths. It was considered an accident. Technically, the police were still searching for the wife's body. If I remember right, they never did find it, did they? Once again, the man most worthy of Oyashiro-sama's curse fell victim on the night of the Watanagashi festival. So the fuss over Oyashiro-sama's curse rose up again. Until then, Oyashiro-sama wasn't considered very important. At least in the world of us kids, it was just the name of the object of worship in the shrine. Nothing more than that. I'd seen boys peeing on the archway, and I once stuck my hand into the offertory box. How scandalous. The existence of a god didn't matter much to us. But after 2 consecutive occurrences, the kids no longer doubted the existence of a curse. We were all shaking in fear of Oyashiro-sama. Everybody suddenly became interested in the old stories about him, too. We quietly listened to the musty old stories the elders had to tell. And we started genuinely believing in the tales of Oyashiro-sama's miracles, which any of us would have laughed away before. Oyashiro-sama's rules were awfully simple and clear. Enemies treading into Hinamizawa would be cursed. Villagers leaving the village would be cursed. What defined the village was terribly vague. Were we never allowed to leave Hinamizawa village? Was going to Okinomiya still safe? Was a single step enough to be out? Was a 3-day, 2-night hot spring trip still safe? We kids tried to draw a line. It was decided that, in the end, if you had a house in Hinamizawa or Okinomiya, you were safe. And it was okay to go on trips if you had a house in either area. I know it's weird, but those rules were made up by kids after all. According to those rules, I'd be cursed, since I lived at a boarding school in such a remote area. I couldn't say it out loud because I felt embarrassed. But in fact, I was a little scared of the curse. Yeah, it happened again the year after. It sure is scary when it happens 2 years in a row. I still believe in Oyashiro-sama's power. Shion-chan, what are you saying? Yippee! Don't you know? Yippee! Hi, Kimono. How are you doing? Welcome, welcome. No? About what? Yippee! Yes. Oh, right. You went to that school before it happened. That's why you don't know. Uncle Yoshino grimaced as if he said too much. Snuggling with Tyrone? Please give her a head pat for me. I'm good. Getting some, interesting story about Shion, so. A bit of a slow start, but we're learning. Getting lore. As though he'd mentioned something I shouldn't know about. What is it? You can't leave me hanging like that. Well, I think you're mature enough now. Hey, if you think my body looks underdeveloped, you should see an eye doctor. Either that or you're a pedo. Okay. I'll talk. It happened again the year after that. What happened? What are you talking about? Tick. When I was very little, I always had this tick before I heard something bad. It was like a gnome who lived inside me was giving me a warning. A gnome? Like he was poking me with a small needle. When I felt this tick before my parents called me, they'd always either chide me or tell me something bad. So I used to run away when I felt it. Your reading is so crystal clear. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for the bits, Zane. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I like reading out loud, so. If it makes you guys happy, that makes me happier. But my senses seem to have grown dull over the years. Even though my gnome poked at me, I just sat there. The year after the death of the Hojos, it happened again. Last year, in other words. Did it? Proof of head pats had been given. Let's go! I appreciate it. Did it happen on the day of the Watanagashi? Yes, it's amazing. Again? 3 years in a row? That's right. You know there's a shrine in Hinamizawa. The Furude Shrine? The priest suddenly died on the night of the festival. They said the cause of death was an unknown illness. And the same night, his wife threw herself into the swamp. There was a big uproar. The mayor even had to hold an emergency meeting. Wait, they're just gonna stop the explanation there? Excuse me? I don't think the bit about the illness is true. But his death was very sudden. The priest was busy preparing for the festival, and he'd gotten sick around that time. So I guess he died of a heart attack or something. But it's just crazy that somebody died on the day of Watanagashi again. It's the third time in a row. It's unbelievable that so many people have died on the exact same day. The coroner didn't find anything unusual about the cause of death, so nobody suspected that anything was wrong. But you're right that the whole situation is abnormal. What a coincidence. A coincidence indeed. Every year for 3 years. Only the people who were likely to be cursed died on the day of the festival. There must be something behind this. Whether it's a conspiracy or a curse, there has to be. I decided to meet up with Mion at the library near the Okinomiya train station. It's not that I don't trust Mion, but I don't want to let her know where I live. Not many people use this library, so I won't see anyone from Hinamizawa here. It's very convenient for meeting someone in secret. After we discussed my life plan and work schedule, we moved to small talk. I've been away from this town for years. Things have changed. I asked Mion about these changes in detail in order to fill in the gaps. While talking about various things, I brought up what Uncle Yoshiro had told me about Oyashiro-sama's curse. Even before I left town, the curse had already struck twice. The dismemberment murder on the first year left quite an impact. And the year after, the pro-dam activist couple fell off the cliff on the day the villagers were enjoying their first Watanagashi festival since the dam project was indefinitely frozen. This one also left quite the impact. The evil construction site manager was punished, and the next year, the traitor to the village met the same fate. If it had happened only once, people would have concluded that it was just a bizarre coincidence. But when it happened 2 years in a row, people were far more likely to believe it was a curse. I know up to that part. And after I left town, the curse struck again for the third time. People talked about the curse more intensely than ever, both in Hinamizawa and Okinomiya. I have to rethink this. Oyashiro-sama's curse has drastically gained credibility while I was away. It was still unclear with the first 2 incidents. But after it continued for 3 years straight, people's doubts changed to convictions. Even though the priest who died on the 3rd year wasn't an enemy of the villagers, the fact that people in Hinamizawa didn't care much for him added even more credibility to the idea. Wasn't the priest hated by a few? Especially by the committee members? Yeah. They criticized him for being a fence-sitter. Toward the end of the dam conflict, the protesters were all taking aggressive stances, so they didn't like how soft he was being. The priest had looked strict and scary. The way he spoke was always so formal. But in reality, he was very warm and reserved. Maybe it was because he was a son-in-law, having married into his family. I'm sure the priest and his personality were the perfect fit for managing the shrine that was used for summer festivals and village meetings. But that gathering spot-style atmosphere of the shrine changed completely when the dam war broke out, and it became the headquarters for the Onigafuchi Guardians. Prior to the dam protests, hardly anyone worshipped Oyashiro-sama. Of course, the devout elders paid worship to him, but the average person treated our god like how you treat fortune-telling. Once the dam protests began, Oyashiro-sama was suddenly hauled out as the symbol of the village's resistance, tracing the Oyashiro-sama faith back to its roots. It was an exclusive, elitist faith that believed its members were descended from a holy ancestor, different from the masses at the foot of the mountain, and that those tainted masses should never come near the village. Of course, such self-centered ideology wasn't acceptable anymore in peaceful post-war Japan, so this doctrine was abandoned over time. Still, that idea remained, and they trudged it back up to fan the flames of nationalism and unite the town against the dam project. With the revival of those ideas, things only grew more radical by the day. And it didn't take very long for the Onigafuchi Guardians to become aggressive. After that, we were in a state of war. 100 million, burning as one, kill the white savages, want naught but victory. Adults and kids both were gnawing at the bit, avid to repel the foreign invaders. Describing it like that makes it sound kind of awful, like a reminder of the dark times of wartime in Japan. But like I said before, for us kids, it felt like a war it felt less like a war and more like a village-wide festival. These children are violent. Yet, despite calling it a festival, dissenters were treated coldly. Thank you for the hydrate and stretch. Their heartlessness lived up to the expression wartime regime. The Hojo couple, who voiced their acceptance of the dam project in the midst of that atmosphere, were truly brave. Then, on the second year of the curse, they died in an accident. And everyone believed it was Oyashiro-sama's curse without question. So they were branded traitors and enemies of the village. The Hojo couple faced worse than just being ostracized as traitors. Everyone gave them the cold shoulder and talked behind their backs. The only person who didn't treat them badly was the priest. But okay, was that because he was just a peaceful guy or because their daughters were friends? Something to consider. While the priest never objected to the anti-dam movement, he also never objected to the Hojo couple's advocacy for accepting the government's eviction and restitution to rebuild new lives. They're using such big words. Those unforgivable Hojos became a slogan as three families, especially the Sonozakis, united the village by turning them into scapegoats. So they must have found it very shameful to have a fellow member of the three families approve of that, especially when it was the priest of the shrine that had become a symbol for the dam protest. As central figures in Hinamizawa, the three families were the backbones of the Onigafuchi Guardians, so a difference of opinion was undesirable. And the priest was never accused of anything. But secretly, the people whispered that he was a heretic, and he was unfit to serve as Oyashiro-sama's priest. That Oyashiro-sama's curse would soon strike him down, along with other rumors. I think his association got him in trouble. Yeah, that too. Don't you think the priest was more mature than those around him? He was pretty cool, managing to keep his head and remain neutral while everyone around him grew fervent. I thought Mion would share my opinion when I chimed back in. So when Mion gave me a forced smile, and didn't agree with me, I was taken by surprise. Yeah, I mean, being neutral amidst the people that are very passionate about something is dangerous. If he were really mature, I think he would have cooperated with the others. He should have appeased them. He wasn't just the head priest, he was also the head of the Furude family. That was a time when all of Hinamizawa needed to be united, so having one of the families, who was supposed to serve as examples, disturb that harmony was... I don't know if that should be called mature. It's hard for me to tell. I was taken aback. I barely managed to say the following. Even though we're identical twins, we still had our own unique identities. Every now and then, our opinions differed. But usually, only over some trivial matter. We've never had a difference of an opinion this big. It wasn't an enjoyable feeling. I decided to probe her some more. I don't really like the word you used, appease. What are you trying to say? Are you saying the priest should have thought of the village as a whole and kept his opinions a secret? Meaning, people shouldn't assert the self before the whole? I'm not going that far. It's just, I thought that, as a member of the three families, he should have acted more carefully. That's what I mean. Mion faltered a bit as my tone grew more like a cross-examination. I realized I was speaking a bit too harshly. What Mion expressed was probably the more mature opinion on our scale. When everyone needs to work together to stand up to a vast enemy like the government, people should refrain from actions that would destabilize that alliance. Writing it out and reading it now, I can understand that. But I wasn't mature enough to agree to such a totalitarian idea. Or maybe it wasn't me at all. It was Mion who'd made that mature judgment. We'd been separated for over a year. I'd been away from the town. In the meantime, Mion had been training to take over the headship of the Sonozaki family. She'd been treated as such even before I was confined to that institution. She sat next to the hag in ceremonies and meetings. She took her place when the hag was absent. Totalitarianism in Japan? Never. Oh. You would know more than I do, for sure. But that was just it. We were never that different. Mion had become very like a successor since I've been gone. Uh-huh. You sound like a grown-up now. She seemed to get what I was implying. Am I thinking like Granny now? That's good. You're the successor. You shouldn't think like the rest. You've definitely learned the art of ruling. I never learned anything like that. I'm just trying to act like her. You could do it easily too. I don't want to. It's your role. Well, don't try too hard or you're gonna tire yourself out. I didn't mean to be cold, but Mion seemed to take it that way. She smiled as if trying to pacify me. I smiled gently back at her. So this is where they start growing apart. I see. Sis. I mean, Mion. What? What is it? Our separation has always been tough. Our names, the places where we live, and our bodies. Mion looked down with a serious face, but then looked right back up. Maybe you think I'm jealous of that, but I'm not. We used to have some disagreements, but they were always small and forgettable. You don't have to feel sorry for anything. Up until birth, we were perfectly equal. Right after birth, we were separated by the grown-ups' priorities. I used to get mad about it when I was little. There's no denying that. But we don't have to start a disagreement over it. Mion seemed to understand what I'm trying to say. We each have our own characteristics, even though we're identical twins. Only we know the difference. We're also dependent on each other because of them. Mion seems more dependent. She always worries about me. If somebody gave her a cookie, she'd divide it in two and give one half to me. If somebody gave her a candy, she'd wait until I said it was okay to eat it. On the contrary, I'm cold. I don't care about others if I'm satisfied. I'd put the candy in my mouth right away. I have to emphasize that I don't hate her, and I'm well aware that she loves me. We both know that. Mion must have been hesitating to put the candy of the successor in her mouth, and was waiting to see if I was okay with that. She's awfully close. Do your best, Mion. I'll do my best as Shion, too. I tapped her forehead with my fist lightly. Mion put her forehead against my fist as if trying to feel the warmth. She's Mion, and I'm Shion. She's the successor of the Sonozaki family, and I'm just a vagabond. That isn't a distinction, but rather our individuality. We shouldn't worry too much about the other anymore. We should feel relaxed, living as who we are, with our own characteristics. I didn't have to say any of that out loud. We can communicate by touch, just like this. Okay. Thanks, Shion. No worries, Mion. Let's talk to each other whenever we want to. Like we've always been. That'll never change, okay? Okay. Okay. Mion kept nodding, with her forehead against my fist. So are they just acting like they hate each other later on? I said goodbye to Mion before it turned to evening. We had talked about the things that happened during my time away, and I enjoyed having that chat between sisters very much. We were able to dissolve our unsettled emotions. We didn't used to do that. Maybe it's because we hadn't seen each other for over a year. Phew! It was late afternoon. My heart felt lighter now. I stretched and looked up at the sky. The sky was clear, blue, and far away. No matter how tall I grow, I'll never be able to touch that sky. I'm Shion Sonozaki, a girl who escaped from the life she was forced to live. Nobody will praise me for what I did and for what I'm going to do. But this is what I chose. Aha! I can think maturely too. I psyched myself up. I should go shopping for dinner. Though I have Kasai's help, I need to save money. I love junk food, but it'd be cheaper to cook. Ironically, the culinary classes from that evil school will come in handy. Why not go to the shopping district in Kami-Ishiki? If I'm going there, then I need to take the other street. The cool breeze in the late afternoon felt nice on my skin. Kasai came to the door while I was putting stuff I bought into the fridge. Wait a sec. I'm coming. Oh, this place is so cute. There's a fish and a rabbit and a bear. What does that say? Super Brain First Live? What is that? Did you go grocery shopping? You must be tired. I don't get tired from grocery shopping. Oh, do you want dinner? I bought enough for you too. Is that all right? If you say so, I'd be happy to. Kasai looked curious about what I'd cook. You don't look like you believe in my cooking skills. You'll pay for that later. Are you putting these in the refrigerator? I'll do it. Oh, thanks. Is the amount of rice enough for two? Here I go. Kasai skillfully packed food into the fridge while glancing at each item in turn. He noticed something. Shion-san, do you still hate canned food? I hadn't bought any. That was, of course, on purpose. It must be hard to avoid it. I know it's illogical. Maybe I could eat it if somebody forced me to. No, on second thought, I definitely couldn't. I feel really sorry. I know I was out of line then. Please forget about that story. Shut up! Men shouldn't hang around in the kitchen. Go watch TV or something. Kasai chuckled and left. I know this sounds stupid, but I hate canned food. If somebody told me there was canned food in a meal I just ate, I'd throw up. It started with a silly thing. Kasai told me a horror story when I was still little. You know, one of those urban legends, about meat made from an unknown source. Like those rumors about how there's worm meat mixed into burger patties or dog meat in beef bowls. Ew. Kasai had fun telling me one of those stories because of how scared I got. He had fun, but I obviously didn't. I even started to cry in the canned food section of a supermarket. That's how much I hated it. I don't freak out like that anymore, but I still don't like canned food. Since I don't like it, I don't force myself, and I now live my life naturally avoiding canned food. One of the big differences between us twins is that Mion doesn't have this issue. Kasai feels responsible for this, but he can't rid me of that fear. Still, a flaw like this is actually a good thing, otherwise I'd be too perfect. I think there was a story they said in the last game, though, about there being, like... Was it the last game? It was, like, about canned food, military rations or something that was made with human meat. I don't really remember, but I know they mentioned something like that. Kasai, set up the table, would you? Smells good. Thank you for doing this. If this isn't enough food, you could go to a beef bowl place later or something. And don't turn off the TV. I hate having dinner in silence. Thank you for the meal. So? What is it, Kasai? You came here for something, didn't you? I handed him a cup of tea. I could wait until dinner was over, but I wanted to get to the point quick. I thought I should wait until we finished, but would you mind if I talked while eating? It's been bugging me since you got here. It'd be much easier for me to eat if you start talking now. We received a phone call from the school today. Today? That's late. Sounds like they didn't want to make it public. So, what happened? Akane-san took the call. She said she was going to tell your father when the time is right. Akane-san is my mom. That's what Kasai calls her, as he's known her since before her marriage. So, what did she say? I was lucky she answered the phone, since she's relatively on my side. Other than calling you a brat, she didn't seem surprised by this outcome. I see. So she hasn't told Dad yet? She's probably waiting for the right moment. I think she's going to in a couple of days. Dad is on Grandma's side, so he'll definitely talk to her if he hears about it. Then she'll have her men bring me to her, and depending on my explanation, make me offer a finger or two. Scary. I wish you could laugh it off, but please remember you're not the only one who... Ouch. You're eating too fast. I cooked too much rice and miso soup, so you'll have to have another round. At least 3 helpings, all right? Girl, just have leftovers. A few days later, Mion told me that the hag had heard about my escape. So, how did she take it? She was furious. She said that if you were in Okinomiya, she'd get you right away. Scary. And? Is Dad doing anything? They'll hold a family council soon to see if any of the family members are hiding you. It doesn't look like she'll have the greenhorns search for you all over town, though. Holding a family council means that things will remain in the hag's hands alone. She won't search the town for me. It's like she's unofficially approving my presence. Of course, I'll get caught immediately if they find me in a large public place. Seems like Mom did a lot to help me. I can tell she's being supportive. It's a long story, but my mom is sort of an outlaw, even though she's of the Sonozaki bloodline. A long time ago, she had a huge fight with the hag because she hated the family rules and traditions. She was even excommunicated. My mom was supposed to be the successor, but she was deprived of the title and Sis took her place instead. Oh, so that's what happened. I was wondering why Mion was the successor and not a mom or dad. While she's quiet now, Mom's still an outlaw. She's always been on my side, because I also hate rules and traditions. Dad was flaring up at first, but Mom pacified him. He can't win against her after all. Okay, thanks. Let me know if something comes up. If things really go bad, I'm ready to leave town. I can't let Kasai, Uncle Yoshiro, or Mom lose face. Sis, I know what you're thinking. You're asking yourself why only I have to go through this, even though we're twins, aren't you? Mion was silent. That meant yes. It isn't fair that only you have to live like this. It's absolutely not. Thanks. I appreciate your feelings. Tell me when you want to go out. I'll arrange my plans so that I can trade places with you. She sounded apologetic. I shouldn't go quiet or agree with her. She sticks to things a little too much. Once she goes down, she'll stay there for a while. So I just told her simply. Thanks. That's really nice of you. Okay, I'm hanging up now. Talk to you later. Mion seems so nice here. That's so weird. So sus. A smudge diary. New tips. Satoko was crying while hiding behind my back. She's been crying while clinging onto me, so my back was wet with her tears and snot. My aunt had been screaming hysterically, but she looked tired now. I suddenly realized that it was already past 1 in the morning. She vomited out a series of screams one last time and finally called it quits. You really showed up at the end. Hi, Gray. Yeah, it's okay. Not much has happened so far yet, so you haven't really missed anything too important. How are you doing? Satoko seemed exhausted. She was looking down in a state of shock. Even after my aunt walked away, she didn't realize she'd been freed. So I stroked her head and told her, "It's over, Satoko." Satoko twitched. Her eyes grew bright again and tears rolled down her cheeks. Sleepy, you've been doing stuff since 9 a.m.? Ew, that's early. Maybe you can take a nap later, hopefully? Or just take it easy? She looked up at my face. She knew it was over, but wanted to hear it directly from me. She begged me with a look. To be honest, I was really exhausted too, so I felt a bit annoyed when she tried to make me say it. But I needed to pacify her, so I gently told her what she wanted to hear. She's done with her scolding, so let's go to sleep, all right? Satoko clung to me while her tears continued to fall. She was crying again silently. Satoko was shivering pitifully. Her small back reminded me that there was nobody else to protect her. Here, go brush your teeth, make your bed, then go to sleep. Satoko smiled faintly and nodded. I felt dizzy. As I was released from the strain, a harsh drowsiness fell upon me. While Satoko was washing her face, I went to the toilet. I zoned out while watching my pee. In my dizziness, I almost missed the shot. I felt like I was being sucked into the toilet. I couldn't even remember what caused it. Why did my aunt start screaming today? Dang. Poor Satoshi. He has to deal with a crazy aunt and an annoying sister like Satoko. Feels bad. Let us get back to it. Wait, I can put my chat back. Alrighty. We continue. Load, yes. Let's go. It's a very quiet afternoon, as always. Since I can't go outside as myself, I have to match schedules with Mion when I go shopping. I've gotten used to it by now, so it's no longer a hassle. Because of this, I naturally have to buy things in bulk. Is there a Costco in Okinomiya? Today, I shuttled between shops and my home. I got this. I got that. Oh, wait. Isn't it a 100 yen sale day today? I forgot this. Being in a good mood, I spun around with my arms spread out. I felt like a little whirlwind. My arm hit a motorcycle parked on the sidewalk. It obviously wasn't where it was supposed to be. Ow! What the? Who parked this motorcycle here? I gave it a kick with no hesitation. Ayo? This is what Keiichi did back in the day. I think it was it game 2? I want to say game 2, because that's when he met Shion for the first time. I'm pretty sure he did the same thing and got in trouble. There were 3 motorcycles lined up there in a row. They all fell like dominoes. It was a beautiful sight. This is fun, I thought. Being in such a good mood made me leave my guard down. I didn't realize that the owners of the motorcycles were right nearby. They looked pretty scary. They grabbed me by the neck and dragged me into a dark alley. Then they called me all kinds of names. Everything was happening too quickly for me to grasp what was going on. The heck are you? What do you think you're doing, huh? Friggin' bash your head in! Grrr! Gonna pay for what you did! Whoa. They can't really talk properly. I didn't have a clue what they were saying. Wow, okay. That's what she's worried about? I'm impressed. I had to translate their alien tongue into normal human words in order to understand. We are very upset because you knocked down our motorcycles. You should immediately pay for the repair and compensation. Yeah, that was probably it. That's our offer, what do you say? We'd be happy to listen to your opinion. Something like that? Huh? What in? Sorry. I don't think I can continue interpreting. Huh? What you saying? I know what they're trying to say. But somebody has to warn them about the way they park their motorcycles. It wouldn't be fair to those who obey the rules if there were no punishment for those who disobey them. This is an accident, but it must also be God's will. But God. You can use me to punish these guys, but how will you compensate me later? I heaved a huge sigh. Of course, I wasn't afraid in this situation at all, because it wasn't a dangerous one for me. These 3 guys were yelling at the top of their lungs at a girl. They didn't look good doing it, and they had too many disadvantages. First, there was the difference in gender and the number of people. Even if I did something wrong, as men shouting at a woman, it didn't make them look like they were in the right. Added to that, there were 3 of them. It already looked like it was going to get violent. Second, the location. Taking a girl into a dark, narrow alleyway is already a bad idea, and on top of that, they're asking for money, not just an apology. Thanks to these facts, the public will be on my side. So this was a fight they couldn't possibly win. The only way for them to win would be to take my money before somebody finds out. Considering that, taking me to this narrow, secluded alleyway might have been a smart move, since fewer people would find out about the situation. Huh? You listening or not? I knew how slim their chances of winning were. From the very beginning, they had picked the wrong girl. I'm Mion Sonozaki now. It'd be foolish to mug her in Okinomiya. Soon enough, the people of Hinamizawa would notice me and gather around. They don't spare mercy for their enemies, no matter what. The punks didn't know this area well. If they did, they'd have known how silly it was to rob Mion. Plus, the alleyway isn't always as empty as they assumed. This side street is a shortcut, which local people frequently use on their way home. In the late afternoon, many people will be passing through here. The time had almost arrived. If I held off a little longer, the street would soon be filled with people. Then the punks would have to go away. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to wait in order to win. This was a simple fight like that. While they could hurl abusive language at me or lift me up by my collar, they weren't actually going to resort to violence. Cheers to the educational system for ingraining the ladies' first mindset. But as a wicked person, I wanted to toy with them a bit, even though I could win this by waiting. I wanted to paint them as even more villainous, and drive them into a corner that would be even harder to talk their way out of. That demonic desire was rearing its horns. Are we sure Shion is not the demon in this family? To put it plainly, I'd only need to act as the poor, helpless victim a little further. like the pathetic, pitiful, tragic heroine everyone wanted to sympathize with. In a case like this, I shouldn't start crying immediately because they'd get nervous and draw back. If it were a truly threatening situation, that would work, but I needed something different here. I'd pretend to be strong at first. In fact, I thought, why don't I challenge them? And eventually, I'd start trembling, my voice would fade, and I'd get tears in my eyes. It'd be even better if I played the role of a strong girl who's slowly giving in to fear. Mion and I are probably the only ones who are capable of pulling that kind of stuff off. Well, I'm probably better than her. Why don't you let me go now? I already apologized. I talked back with a little hesitation. Am I getting tears yet? Yes. By the way, I've heard men can't shed tears on command. I feel sorry for them. The three punks faltered a bit due to my sudden change in attitude, but they soon started yelling at me again. I had to keep it going. That way they'd blatantly look like they're picking on a helpless girl. Please, forgive me. What you doing? What's with this girl, huh? I don't... Maybe you should apologize like that from the start. It looked like they were laying off a bit. Did I overdo it a little? It'd be boring if they let me go now. At that moment. Oh, it's Satoshi! Cut it out. Don't you see her crying? Stop it! A boy around my age appeared. He was skinny. He looked weak. He looked younger than he probably was. He also looked smart. He bravely glared at the punks. What the hell? Who are you? Back off! Ah! The punks turned away from me to face the boy instead. The boy looked a bit agitated when the punks started yelling at him. They sure were ruthless. But the boy must have known that from the beginning. He must have known that he was going into a dangerous situation, yet he didn't hesitate. Say something! Why don't you answer us? He must have wanted to shout back at them, but he'd probably never used that kind of language in his life, so he couldn't have expressed his feelings out loud. He might have not even known what to say, so he just kept on glaring at them, to let them know he wasn't going anywhere. The three punks, though, might have thought he was just lost for words in his fear, but I knew different. The boy was overpowering them with nothing but his will. The punks were losing. So, they resorted to violence. They grabbed him and knocked him down. They hit, kicked, and tossed him around. It looked painful, but I knew it was his victory. Is he really a winner? Really? In the end, local passerbys stopped the punks. They made no further fuss and just went away. The boy stood up. He was covered in dust. He smiled when our eyes met, and asked me if I was all right. He didn't look particularly okay himself, though. How could you step into a fight you obviously couldn't win? Pick your opponents better next time. Dang, Shion. He was trying to help you. I hesitated at first. He laughed, saying he was watching from the beginning. That meant he had the option to walk away. But instead, he worked up the courage and stepped in. That was reckless, not brave. You're being a little harsh, Mion. You should at least say thank you. I saw you crying. No, I wasn't crying. That was just an act. Okay. Hey, you don't believe me, do you? Do you really think I'd cry? No, nobody'd believe Mion Sonozaki would cry when punks bullied her. Why are you laughing? You really don't believe that was an act? I'd never cry. I believe you, I do. I realized one thing. He must be one of Sis's friends. He didn't seem to realize I'm her twin. He thought I was Mion with a different hairstyle. Mion and I had to live separately since before we went to elementary school. Mion was in Hinamizawa, and I was in Okinomiya. I lived in a totally different environment from her. So, it's not strange that people don't know me. Actually, only very few people know I exist. I almost told him that I'm not Mion, but I managed to stop myself. Shion shouldn't be here. He's from Hinamizawa. It wouldn't be good if he thought he saw a Mion look-alike in Okinomiya. So, I had to act like Mion. Dealing with him could be more difficult than handling those punks. Well, I was just relieved because you seem to have a girly side after all. You sound hostile. What exactly do you mean by that? I thought you'd kick those guys' butts with some crazy martial arts. So I was really surprised when you just started crying. Hey, like I said, I was acting. Weren't you listening at all? He gently put his hands on top of my head and stroked it as if stroking a kitten. I could remember somebody doing that to me when I was little, but it had been quite a while since somebody stroked my head. I didn't know what to do. Why did it make me so embarrassed? My face reddened all at once. I couldn't say anything. Hey! Are you making fun of me? I stuttered in embarrassment. He looked calm, as if he was used to doing this. Whatever. Aren't you glad, though? Glad? What do you mean? Well, you didn't get hurt. He smiled while he kept stroking my head. His smile looked divine. He wasn't going to stay for long. He'd already saved me from those guys after all. Well, I need to be going, so I should head off now. Okay. I wanted to go through all the steps of meeting someone for the first time, but he didn't. As far as he was concerned, he just saved a friend from danger and wanted to leave quickly to avoid seeming pretentious. He and Mion must be friends who knew each other well. So I couldn't bring myself to ask, "What's your name?" Mion's friend smiled once again. His smile looked as refreshing as a clear blue sky. This time, he smiled a bit mischievously. Don't worry, I won't tell anybody you were crying. Well, nobody would believe it if I told them anyway. Nobody would ever believe that our invincible class president cried. He patted the dust off his butt once again. He walked back to the sunny main road, away from the dark alley. Then he turned around. See you. In school tomorrow, I mean. Yeah. See you in school. He disappeared into the brightly lit street. I continued to sit in the gloomy alleyway. I could no longer see him. I was just staring absent-mindedly at the bright light. That was the first time I met Satoshi-kun. Well, now we know Shion has a crush. I'm not even allowed to walk freely under the sun. I met a boy on a sunny day. How come a perverse girl like me fell in love with his innocence? Notebook page 5. That must be Satoshi. He looks like what you described, and he has a habit of stroking people's heads. Uh-huh. His name is Satoshi-kun, eh? The boy from earlier is called Satoshi Hojo-kun. Mion said that he's always daydreaming. So she didn't believe that he saved me at first. His little sister's always kicking his butt. Uh-huh. He has a little sister? Yeah. Her name is Satoko. She's funny. And shrewd. But is quick to cry when she's cornered. She's fun to watch. But things have been rough for her lately. So she's feeling a bit down. His sister came up naturally in the conversation. I tried to soak up every scrap of information about Satoshi-kun. Why? Why am I trying to ask so much about him? As I asked myself that, the feeling I got when he stroked my head came back to me. I must have been blushing. Hello? Shion? Eh? Sorry. I'm here, I'm listening. To start, I hear Satoko's on bad terms with her aunt. Satoshi's mature, so he knows how to conduct himself, but when bad things happen, Satoko really lets herself go. What Sis told me was very interesting. She told me that the parents of Satoshi-kun and his little sister are dead. Satoshi-kun and Satoko are now living with their uncle and aunt. They don't seem like very respectable people. They're always fighting, and the uncle is cheating on the aunt. He mostly lives with his mistress. Satoshi-kun and Satoko entered into that unwelcome environment. What surprises me the most is the fact that Satoshi-kun's parents were the Hojo couple who were the leaders of the pro-dam activists. That fact must have added something to the situation. I don't know what kind of stance the uncle and aunt took during the dam conflict, but they must have taken some indirect blows. Satoshi-kun's parents died after bothering them so much, and even left them their children. The uncle and aunt obviously can't love those kids. Things have gotten worse this past year, too. Women can be really nasty bullies. Sometimes, it doesn't matter who they're bullying, even if it's a kid. On top of that, women tend to care less about propriety than men. As a result, Satoko seems exhausted with it all. I can imagine Satoshi-kun bravely protecting his little sister. Just like when he saved me. So, he must be exhausted too, right? Huh? He must be covering for Satoko all the time. So wouldn't you normally assume that he's also feeling worn out? Well, I don't know. Had I said something wrong? Mion sounded a bit taken aback. So that meant Mion can't tell how he's feeling. Because he's always wearing that blank look. So she never considered it. How could she be that insensitive even though she's around him all the time? I was amazed to realize that. Well, anyway, what does he usually do? He looks smart, so does he read a lot of books? Yeah, you're right. He likes to read. He's now reading... what's it called? I continued asking about him. About what he likes, dislikes, and what he thinks about. I asked Sis all these questions because I wanted to know more about him. It was the first time I'd ever been that interested in somebody. I didn't want to admit that I had feelings like that. Did I fall in love just because of a stroke on the head? Am I stupid or what? When I remember the feeling of his hand on my head, my heart feels tingly. I tried doing it myself, but it didn't feel the same. I'm stupid. What am I doing, stroking my own head? Sis, I'm done for. I became stupid. What? Why are you laughing in that weird voice? You wouldn't understand this feeling, sis. When would I see him again? I felt as if my suffocating life has finally grown brighter. Ugh, cringe. The life I lived really was beginning to suffocate me. I couldn't go out freely, and I always had to make arrangements with Mion before going to work. I'd thought my life would improve after escaping from the school, but in reality, it wasn't that easy. It's not healthy to live like this for too long. Without any friends to hang out with, I felt like I was hibernating. I'd started to feel the dangers of falling into boredom. All I could think of now was Satoshi Hojo-kun's face. I'd only met him briefly, but my encounter with him had a great impact on my new life. I felt like something exciting was going to happen. Really, I was hyped up like a little kid. The more I thought about it, I realized I'd been thinking about him a lot lately. This might be a crush. I felt a little ridiculous idolizing him in such a romantic way, though. Then, out of the blue, I got a chance to see him again. Oh? I saw a familiar face at the twilight in the park. He was sitting on the swing. He looked like he was zoning out, or maybe deep in thought. He didn't notice me, even though I was right in front of him. I reminded myself to speak and act like Mion before talking to him. Hey, what are you doing here? Mion, you surprised me. You don't look surprised. I've been standing here for a couple of minutes now. Didn't you notice me? Have you? Sorry, I didn't. He smiled self-derisively and shrugged. He looked depressed, like something was troubling him. Is something bugging you? You could talk to me if you want. Maybe I can help. No, that's okay. Come on, I owe you one from before, Satoshi-kun. Or maybe you don't think this old man can be of any help? Don't you know how mighty I am? I'm okay. You don't have to help me. Huh. What is it then? Are you saying that you don't need help from a girl? Thinking him unfair, I puffed up my cheeks in a sulky gesture. Satoshi-kun noticed that and smiled. No, Mion. It's just, I messed up my swing when they needed me the most. I mentally rifled through all the information about Satoshi-kun that Sis had given me. He doesn't look like much of an athlete, but apparently Satoshi-kun belongs to a junior baseball team. They're called the Hinamizawa Fighters. I doubt he's very skilled, since I didn't hear much about his contributions to the team. Maybe that's why he doesn't tell many people that he's a member. Given how he felt as a result of messing up, though, he must be fairly dedicated. I deduced all that from what Sis told me and carefully chose my words so as to sound like her. What? Are you feeling down just because of that? Hey, it's not that easy to get over, Mion. I pat his back while chuckling. Satoshi-kun would probably call me insensitive. I knew I should listen to him rather than trying to cheer him up. Acting like Sis was probably the wrong thing to do in this case, but I had no choice. This was just how she'd react in this situation. Instead of feeling down, you should practice even harder and aim for your chance, you know? Practice makes perfect here. Well, if you want to beat the opposing pitcher so badly, you're willing to pull some tricks, then I might be able to help you in a few ways. There's no point if I cheat. Satoshi-kun hung his head after letting his regrets out with a big sigh. Surrender, defeat, resignation were all visible in that gesture of his. Are you quick to give up or persistent? If you're a man, then don't you want to be a star and have your 15 minutes of fame? Satoshi-kun grinned and said yes. Of course, that'd be wonderful. But that's not why I play baseball. I just have fun batting and throwing the ball. You can understand that, right? This old man isn't sure. I only love games that I can win. I don't understand how you can love something when you can't be the best at it. That really sounds like you, Mion. Having realized that I'm trying to make him feel better, he laughed along. He didn't look depressed anymore. I guess he was just feeling down because of the game. He wasn't as depressed as I thought. Maybe I just jumped to conclusions when I saw him sitting alone in the park. You always put forth your best effort to win. That's admirable, I think. Yeah, it definitely is. He smiled gently and stood up. Then he started stroking my head. All of a sudden, I totally wasn't prepared for that. What? I thought this when he did it last time, but how can he stroke somebody's head so easily? I felt like I had turned into a little kid. Memories from kindergarten came to mind. My face must have been red. I felt embarrassed, but also like I was in heaven. Satoshi-kun stroked me as though petting a cat. I was blushing with my eyes closed. I felt helpless, like a little girl being treated by the dentist with her mouth open and her eyes shut. Satoshi-kun didn't seem to notice my feelings at all. He didn't seem to care. I hate him. With my eyes still closed, I waited for him to finish. He suddenly withdrew his hand. I need to get going. My aunt wants some stuff, so I have to go grocery shopping. Okay. My voice faltered. I was so embarrassed. I'm going shopping, too. What? You are? I thought the maids did all your household stuff. Shoot, I messed up. In the main Sonozaki house, the maids do everything. Therefore, Mion hardly goes grocery shopping, and she's bragged to some people about that. I should have known better. Still, it wouldn't be too hard to find an excuse. I just happened to be in town, so I thought I'd help with the household stuff. Is that a problem? That doesn't sound like you. You always avoid doing boring stuff like that. You talk too much. Oh, stop stroking my head! Satoshi-kun seemed to be having fun with how embarrassed I'd get when he petted me. Anyway, I managed to talk my way out of it. He didn't seem to really care about the details. While walking with Satoshi-kun in the shopping district of Kami Ishiki, it suddenly occurred to me. Why had I messed up? I'd known Mion would never go grocery shopping. What an amateurish mistake. Did I make that mistake when I was pretending to be Mion? No, I was probably speaking as Shion. I couldn't keep lying to myself. I just had to admit. It was simply because I wanted to spend as much time with Satoshi-kun as possible. It was easy to see why I was so attracted to him. I'd found something intriguing in my boring life. And I didn't have to feel tense because he thought I was somebody else, etc., etc. His easygoing nature made him fun to be around, and his habit of petting people on the head was fun too. From these symptoms, I could tell I was embracing the feeling of love. I was just casually enjoying that feeling. It wasn't that I fell in love with him. I was just having fun. I could simply spend some fun time with Satoshi-kun without having to think too much. Which one is broccoli? The green one or the yellow one? Yellow? Excuse me? That's cauliflower, Satoshi-kun. Hey, could it be that you can't tell lettuce from cabbage either? I'm not that bad. I'm doing my best here. Satoshi-kun stared at the heaps of broccoli and cauliflower. After thinking for a while, he reached out for the wrong one. That's not it! Watching you shop is like being on a roller coaster. It's a lot of fun for me, though. You got me. Satoko can't tell the difference either. Which is broccoli and which one is cauliflower? You guys are too funny. Sis had told me that Satoshi was a flaky big brother to his nagging little sister. I hadn't met Satoko, but she must be having a tough time dealing with Satoshi-kun. He stumbles over everything he buys after all. That's cooking salt! It's mixed with pepper. It's different from regular salt. Oh, is it? I think I saw salt and pepper separate in a science experiment once. Stop making excuses and just put it back on the shelf. This is normal salt. What are you getting next? You're being a great help, Mion. You look smart, but you have some serious issues. I think you should study more. That's a little harsh. There. Is this it? In it goes. Ah, that's not it! Don't just throw anything in the basket. Check the price and how many servings it is first. My first impression of Satoshi-kun was that he was strong and reliable. But the more I spoke to him, the more surprised I was at how clumsy and unreliable he was. How do I put it? It was hard to leave him alone. He was dangerous on his own. If he wasn't careful, he might start wondering, do you cross the street when the light is red? Or was it green? And get himself run over by a dump truck. Sweat drop. Your total is 1,780 yen. Do you have a member's card? Huh? Oh, yes, I do. Huh? Where is it? Oh, sorry, we can't seem to find it, so we'll be alright for today. I finished checking out, ignoring Satoshi-kun as he fished through his wallet full of receipts. That was horrible, Mion. You made me waste points. Don't go slowly fishing through your wallet to look for your member's card in the middle of the evening shopping rush. There was a huge line behind us. Didn't you notice all the evil glares from all the old ladies? Listen, at times like that, you should get it out before reaching the register. Oh, right. That's good to know. It's not only when you go shopping. The same thing goes for when you ride a bus. Satoshi-kun, I bet you don't open your wallet and start looking for change until you're about to get off and have to pay while holding up everyone behind you. No, everyone walks by me and pays their own fare. You know what that means? You're being a super huge bother to everyone. You need to have the money out beforehand. That's just good manners. Do you get it? Okay. You're scary today, Mion. Satoshi-kun smiled as if patronizing me. I couldn't believe it. He was definitely the type who made women want to protect him. Sure, he was fine as he was when he had a busybody like me around him, but I couldn't stop worrying whether he was unable to function in society without someone like that nearby. We got plastic bags and sorted out what we bought. Satoshi-kun put a pack of tofu at the bottom of the bag. I slapped his hand and put a milk carton instead. Okay, there we go. Now your aunt won't freak out when she opens the shopping bags in her kitchen. Thanks. You helped me a lot. I don't think I'm very good at shopping. Just shopping? That's definitely not the only thing. Just kidding. I had realized a few things while I was spending time with him today. He's not just bad at shopping. He's also chronically clumsy. In general, you could call him a slow thinker. That meant, when he stepped into the quarrel with the punks, he must have needed a lot of courage. He might be a simpleton, but he's not stupid. He's aware of his weaknesses. So, he must have been aware of the danger in the situation. He could have chosen to walk away even though I was in trouble. But he chose to be a man and stepped in. That was really admirable of him. Good boy. You did a great job. There. What is it? Don't stroke my head. I'm rewarding you for shopping successfully today. There. You're making fun of me, aren't you, Mion? No, I'm not. Can you go home by yourself? Do you know how to get there? You are making fun of me. Satoshi-kun's sulky face flushed red. He's just too cute. At that point, I caught a glimpse of the billboard from the corner of my eye. Piano lessons. Call XX. Abacus class. Junior baseball team. Members wanted. It was a posting for the team Satoshi-kun belonged to. It showed the day, time, and place of their next practice. By then, I knew just how flaky he was. I figured he must be just the same when playing baseball. Satoshi-kun realized that I was reading the posting. He looked uncomfortable and walked away. I know what you're thinking. I beg you, Mion, don't come to see me playing baseball. Am I right? What does that mumbling mean? I know I'm right. Satoshi-kun became quiet after mumbling something. It seemed like he couldn't say anything back since I'd been right on the money. Satoshi-kun, you're just too cute. I don't think going silent is a good way to dodge the issue. Well, that might have just been the way innocent people like him would react in a situation like that. See you, Satoshi-kun. It's getting dark, so be careful on your way back. Aren't you going home, Mion? To Hinamizawa? I have to make a stop somewhere first. Don't worry about me. I'll help you this time. In return. I'm okay. What are you going to help me with anyway? You should learn to support yourself before you try to help me. You're really mean today. He seemed to have some pride at least. He looked a bit upset because he was teased by a girl. But in contrast, I felt very satisfied. As a result, I forgot to keep my guard up. Thank you for the help. That was sweet of you. Whoa! While wearing a bright smile, Satoshi-kun suddenly started stroking my head again. I know he's teasing me, but I can't reject him. He keeps doing it only because he's realized I won't resist. See you, Mion. You should go home before it gets dark. See you in school tomorrow. Yeah. See you in school tomorrow, too. In fact, I wouldn't see him tomorrow at all. It felt awkward, but I had to settle for that. I had to thank Sis for letting me use her name. After I separated from him, I found myself giddy and wishing to see him again as soon as possible. I wanted to know more about him. I couldn't wait for my next chance to see him. Actually, maybe there was something I could do. Just like when I obtained my freedom from St. Lucia's. I could choose how to live my life. Whatever. It wasn't that complicated. I just wanted to tease him more. I wanted him to stroke my head more. And, whatever. I already knew the schedule for his baseball team. A crumpled diary. My aunt finally stopped her hysterical screaming. Today was just like any other day. I can't remember what set her off. Whatever it was, she changed subjects constantly anyway. It didn't matter. She went on past midnight again. The urge to sleep was pounding the back of my head. Once Satoko had been able to relax, she fell down on the spot and started sleeping, still clinging to my sleeve. I carried Satoko to the bedroom and laid out our futons. Here, Satoko. Your futon is ready, so get in, okay? Satoko crawled in like a worm. She stopped moving once she was inside. I wished I could go to bed too, but I couldn't. My aunt asked me to do some chores. I had to get toothpaste after school tomorrow. I had to write it down somewhere. I had to make rice for lunch tomorrow. I set the timer. Right. I also had to repile the towels in the bathroom. That was the reason for today's scolding. My aunt will get mad if everything isn't done the way she wants. Oh, and there was something else. I was working at the grocery store the next day. They wanted me to bring an apron. Did we even have an apron in this house? I'd never seen one. My aunt will be sleeping when I go to school, so I won't have time to ask her. What should I do? Since Mion helped me get that job, I don't want to screw it up. In that case, why don't I ask Mion about it at school? She might lend me one. Was there anything else? I was envious of Satoko because she got to go to bed. It was pathetic that I felt that way. Dang. Satoshi really going through it. But I think that's where we will end for today. I have been streaming for almost 3 hours now, so thank you guys so much for coming. Hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!